Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. So welcome, all you people who want insight from astrology. You are more than welcome every week to join me for optimism and promise, which we still have the potential to live and emulate in these absolutely wackadoodle times. Anyway, another week ahead where I see lots of positive growth. It starts off with Monday the 21st, which I do believe we're going to have a rather rocky start of the week. And this is why. The moon is in the sign of Aquarius. And those of you who have been listening for a while or read or follow astrology in other places know that the United States horoscope, July 4th, 1776, shows a moon in Aquarius. And therefore, it speaks a lot of the manifest destiny, love of independence, go my own way, Americana myth. And it is really hitting against the wall at this point in time, now that we are post-Pluto return, Pluto, the planet of irrevocable transformation, and we're in the time of Pluto in Aquarius, which is mirroring, or it's an echo of what was going on during the great revolutions, the French and American revolutions, way back in time in the late 1700s. And so what's happening is, especially when the moon is in the sign of Aquarius at this point in time, as it moves through the sky, eventually it's going to be in a 90-degree configuration from our perspective here on Earth, which to astrologers indicates a pushback thing, a struggle of forces that each want representation. And in this case, that 90-degree picture is with the planet Uranus, which was discovered around the time of those revolutions I'm talking about. So it indicates change, revolution, surprise, the unexpected, upsets, and freedom at all costs. So what's happening specifically to the United States, but also from a whole global perspective now, is a total reshuffling of the deck of what freedom, world power, how finances are structured, alliances you can rely on, everything is just thrown out. And so what we're experiencing, I'm talking about the late 1700s, but what we're also experiencing at this point in time with that echo and reverberation is a time of reconfiguration of how the world works, which when you reflect on it at the birth of the United States, and also when France changed from a royalty-led country to a republic, took a while. It was a very violent revolution. But when they restructured themselves over time, this did change world order, how countries interrelated to one another. The whole idea of colonization really took a radical turn at that point. And even though there were countries like the United Kingdom that were able to hold out a little longer with this kind of imposed power, benevolency, in quotes, things were changing. So we're in this time of profound world order shifts, coupled with the results of the Industrial Revolution, the other big revolution that's happening at that point in time in the late 1700s. So we're at the point in the arc of this cycle where it is only not obvious to people who still want to stuck on the old form and not pay attention to the fact that if we continue to tap into the earth and plummet the resources in the way we have, it will lead to the destruction of the human race. But I guess if you're thinking you're going to populate Mars, as the billionaires are, then they're not overly concerned about that. They never walk in the woods or go outside or sit by a river anyway, so it doesn't really matter to them in the same way. However, and the reason I'm talking about this so much at this point in time, as I reflect on the past several years when we hit that Earth Day point, we often have a lunar configuration that is empathetic or working with that sun in Taurus, which happens at this time of year on Earth Day. But this year is different. And being a symbolist, I believe one reason it's different is because so many people on the planet are basically done with the way that the powers that be keep turning the wheels of technology and not paying attention to the realities before them. And now we see in the United States, the Trump administration has decided to log natural forests, mine natural reserves, go for oil in the Arctic Reserve, in our oceans, totally turning around decades of a difficult process of fighting to retain natural wild environments because money and power doesn't care. Money and power has absolutely no interest in keeping what could bring them wealth just there. These are the same people, of course, who buy artworks and stick them in closets so that they say they can own this priceless thing. And yet they don't have that same reverence for the earth and the reserves. So, this moon in Aquarius on Monday is actually a very productive day. It looks to me as though people coming together to make a statement, coalitions forming. And if you're a person who has no way of being in community, you're isolated, disabled, unable to take action in a way that brings presence, overworked, 3 jobs, etc. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons. Then do what you can, even if it's just energetic movement towards thinking in terms of preservation of forests or preservation of curiosity, creativity, and innocence of children. Our world has become so toxic that many of us feel it's insurmountable, that there's no reset. And it's true, there is no reset. We cannot go back to a more pristine time, at least not at this point in time. I mean, we do know if the planet manages to regurgitate and rid itself of the human parasites, that eventually it will shift and cleanse and refresh and restore itself to the beautiful blue jewel planet that it is. But unless human beings learn to live in a cooperative manner with the natural environment that we are a part of, we cannot exist without, then this is what's ahead of us. So on this day, Monday the 21st, give yourself a moment to vision what is possible. The clarity, the connection, the pristine, the gathering of community that believes in positive human potential, the absolute wonder of creativity, and the gift of innovation. Innovation that does not discount an empathetic flowering of how to be more human, more connected with the animal kingdom, with nature, with the world in which we have the honor to be connected to. I mean, think about it with this moon in Aquarius on Monday into Tuesday. Think about it. Look at what to you is something absolutely beautiful. Maybe it's a cypress tree undulating in the breeze. Maybe it's a golden thrush or a flower that's just starting to spring open or in full bloom. Maybe it's a kitten. Maybe it's a chameleon. Maybe it's a tarantula. Whatever it is that you look at with a sense of wonder in the natural world, remember that you have that same essence. Absolutely. You have that same perfection of being something that has a circulatory system that is connected to oxygen and water and sunlight. How amazing is the human? How absolutely amazing and wondrous. And yet, we get locked in our crazy thoughts and allow that to dominate everything. When really, we are much more in touch with our beauty when we operate from our heart wisdom, from our sensation of connection, spontaneity, joy, wonder, curiosity. And these are things that absolutely you want to connect to in some way on Monday. Whatever it is, a book you pick up. Mornings are so important when you first wake up. Breathe. Think about the wonder of the day before you, even if you have a crushing, brutal schedule. Get in touch with that body of yours that's waking up, stretching a little, feeling the tension of the sheets against your skin as you start to stretch and move. Hopefully it's a slight tension because hopefully you have sheets that comfort you. And then when your feet move on to the floor, give yourself a moment to allow your feet to feel grounded and really on that floor. Stretch your toes out. Feel what it's like. And I say this with total awareness of some of us, speaking for myself, may have issues with our feet, and stretching or feeling or planting them in that way might be painful or challenging or not what it was last night. But let yourself know that sensation before you stand up and start to move through your day. And the wonder of being able to wake up and have a day. So this day can have a lot of promise, and many of us may feel very jazzed and on and directed. And that can continue until Tuesday, the 22nd. But what I observe on Tuesday, the 22nd, with that hard aspect that's coming up, is there is going to be something that comes in, and it's an arrest, a shock. Well, it may actually be a rest in today's world. Not necessarily, please let it not be for you, but it can be something that stops us, brings us to awareness. And the ideal here, as we're doing that meditation focus, centeredness, knowing where we are present in the world, the ideal here is that we send that energy of the shock, the upset, the surprise, the awareness to the people who have been slumbering, who have not been paying attention, who have not considered the fact that human rights, compassion, kindness to the earth affects them. It hugely affects them. So send awareness. And if that can happen, then the shift increases. Because overall, as we continue through the week, the momentum gets stronger. We are in the waning moon cycle. We're wrapping up that last lunar cycle, and we're heading towards that new moon, the Taurus New Moon, on Sunday, the 27th. And Taurus, the earth energy, the fixed, tenacious, taking its time, connection to the physical earth. That is what we want to emphasize. What are we doing with our time here? Are we ignoring, spacing out, self-medicating, saying we can't do certain things, it's too hard? Or are we being as present and productive as we can be? And productivity is also rest and restoration. As you know, I'm always talking about meditation, refreshing, getting in touch with, because unless we do these things as well, we don't have the fuel, we don't have the energy, we don't have the focus. Okay, so I've talked a lot about the first 2 days. Let's move on to the rest of the week. First, I want to say the moon goes void, of course, at 5:55 p.m. on Tuesday, the 22nd, the times I gave our Eastern time. And it will enter the sign of Pisces at 1:07 a.m. on Wednesday, the 23rd. So that evening of the 22nd, Tuesday, with that moon in Aquarius, that can be a lot of buzz. And the buzz can bring in information, a lot of feeling perhaps frazzled or energized, but just know that it's almost like you have to just let that energy deground, have it go somewhere, or rather ground. You need to discharge it. That's what I want to say. So however you can discharge that energy in ways that are gentle or give you that sense of, okay, let me, it's almost like too much coffee. And so how do you bring it down? How do you get yourself to that chamomile tea place? So once the moon enters Pisces in the wee hours of Wednesday, Then we're in this beautiful cycle. And it's the thing I do need to mention is there's a picture in the sky midday that is Sun and Pluto, and it basically is it's like a power face off, and we can see that certainly in the news, political leaders, lines in the sand, but depending on what you do or who you are or what your impact, job, place in the world, even in family situations, friendships, there can be a standoff in some capacity. Someone saying this or that. It can also have to do with money. Let's say something comes across your screen or awareness. Oh, this is happening with finances or with state of affairs. The important thing is to confront in ways that show that you're there, you're present, you're not backing down, but you're going to go into whatever you need to go into to get to the other side of it. And that's huge, because when we do that, we can start to move the ground a little. It's like things, if one is intimidated, scared off, made to feel as though they are powerless, then they've already given up. They've handed it off to someone else. When we work with it, just find out more, do what we can, look for agents or people who can help us with things that seem intimidating or impossible, then we can start to find our way to what our options are. And again, we're seeing this so much in certainly the United States with things that are happening to people, and probably the majority of people that wrongs or intimidation are happening to just move into it and accept their fate. But there are people who come from no means or ability to really make those connections, but because whatever their story is, or tenaciousness of family members or other people who reach out, things start to change. And so it's that kind of energy that's out there on Wednesday, the 23rd. After we pass midday, then things get much more available. So into the later afternoon, evening, and especially the next day. And Thursday, the 24th, very, very lovely for creativity, compassion, connections, music. It's as though song is everywhere. And I'm fortunate to live somewhere where there are birds all year round. One of the things that, they shift because it's still a seasonal part of the world. But I'm always arrested when we get into what is our spring. And there have been birds, certainly in the winter, there are birds. But in the spring, there's this entire orchestra that starts to blare out pre-dawn. And it is absolutely intoxicating. So the sound of children playing, music, a tune you hadn't heard before, the sound of someone's voice giving you a message that's welcome. There are so many sounds that can come in on Thursday, the 24th, that create a harmony of compassion, a harmony that resonates with love. And so you want to put yourself in those environments, those dialogues, those situations where that is amplified, because it gives you strength, energy, and excitement for what comes next. The moon goes void, of course, at 10:57 p.m. on Thursday evening, but that evening into sleep session is still quite delicious. The moon enters Aries 3:24 a.m. on April 25th. And yes, the Aries moon is fiery. It starts things. It's direct. And depending on what it connects with in the sky as it moves through, it can be a period that feels very confrontational. Even though we may have confrontations on Friday the 25th into the 26th, I see them as being very productive. So we might confront pieces of ourselves that tend to be reticent or don't always step up to the plate or don't articulate when things are difficult. But on this period of time, we can feel, especially if we know where Aries falls in our horoscope, so where it's traveling, we can feel very directed, able to say what we need to say, hear what we need to hear, and make things happen. This is a terrific period to wrap up projects, put things in place, achieve goals, because we are almost at that new moon. So Saturday the 26th, the moon goes void, of course, at 12:18 p.m., and it doesn't enter Taurus until 3:17 a.m. on Sunday the 27th. So the PM hours of Saturday the 26th are good for doing things that need to be finished, working on things already in motion, clearing off our desk, getting a sense that we are poised and in place for what we want to make happen with the next lunar cycle. We want to be very aware that some people may be short-tempered as we get into afternoon, evening. And it's ideal not to get into arguments with people that feel very heated. If you experience an argument or you feel very frustrated or angry yourself, do things that are constructive to release that energetically. It's not always a good idea to exercise at night. For some of us, it can get us very pumped up and make sleep difficult, but even just a nice walk in the evening, if you live somewhere that's easy to do, or somewhere where you can just move energetically a bit, maybe a gentle yoga cycle or something where you're allowing the energy to release. Swimming is nice for people who have that available for them. Just something very gentle, not overly, and dance. Dance is fabulous if that's something you like to do or can do, either in your home or out at a venue. Just move away from anyone who might seem a little fraught or drinking too much or just ready to pick a fight. You don't want to engage with that, I am sure. So Sunday the 27th, there's the new moon. It happens exactly at 3:31 p.m. Eastern. And the morning hours, as we're kind of building towards that, may have some residue to that kind of fiery, angry feeling I was talking about the day before. We can't always avoid arguments. That's just the reality of it. But at least if we have these discussions or conversations or energy releases as of Sunday, we're in more of a place where we can work through it to get to the other side in a way that is much more benefic. We feel more connected, more heard, or we hear the person who had the grievance. And so the ability to untangle the snarls is much greater on Sunday. If it was unavoidable and the argument or confrontation occurred the day before, and this isn't unusual when it happens within us. I mean, there are times when we may feel as though there, and again, it depends on the person. Some of us have very strong natal configurations that show a tendency to be aggressive, angry, frustrated, fiery. I mean, this certainly can be within our celestial DNA. And I speak from experience here, actually. So there are times when I may feel, I will make it me, I may feel very fraught. And so I look at something coming up, like what I see on Saturday, the 26th, and I think, oh boy. And also on Sunday morning, the 27th. But self-awareness is miles ahead of not knowing where the heck it came from. When you know there is a dormant landmine inside of your psyche, and you work on disassembling it or skirting around it, it's much more able to be handled than being totally unaware it's there, which often happens in childhood. You know, we're totally unaware of these pieces of who we are. It's sleeping in our unconscious. And as we become more and more aware, some of us feel more justified in having those things. And others work on using that innate ability to confront, to be forceful in ways that are more constructive. It depends on the person, the self-awareness, and what they're working on doing in this lifetime, or if they're totally oblivious to it. I don't think any of my listeners are totally oblivious to it. But anyway, that being said, so this new moon, once we get by mid-morning and we've moved past that rocky patch of just Mars energy, Pluto energy that wants to just really bark out the window or directly at someone, then we're in a place of real like settling into, okay, this is what I have to work with. What am I going to do? Let me find my creative juice. And this is what I love about this kind of anger fuel, frustration fuel that I see right before this new moon. It's like it's saying, okay, there's a lot of injustice. There's a lot of things that anger you, piss you off, make you want to just growl or run away or blow up. Take that fuel and do something constructive with it, no matter how small it is. Help a community garden. Teach children how to make their own food. Join a group that's working to find safe havens for refugees. Whatever it is that you feel a strong heart about. The list is endless, unfortunately. There's so many causes to help. So find your cause. Find your peace that may make you weep when you come home, may make you angry, may make you feel it's all hopeless. But you just put that hoe in the soil and start to work the soil. And that's how we begin, with that new moon in Taurus. And the new moon in Taurus is coming off an Earth Day when people may have felt very angry, frustrated, and what's the point? But it's there with a high Venusian influence to say, love will guide us. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.